I thought you were here for the other thing, Neeson.
What?
I thought you were here for the other thing, the lot split.
The city attorney and I have reached agreement on the application of the law, so. With the assistance of the third district, the Circuit Court of Appeals, I should say.
Mr. Kasdan.
Yes. You ready? Or you want your staff report first, Mr.
Yes.
Chair?
Mercy?
File number 1874-1800, and please make that correction on your report because there's a typo. It should be 1800 West Avenue and not 1801. The Fresh Market is it's coming before you because it's a structure that is larger than 50,000 square feet in the I-1 district, and the zoning and site data gives you a synopsis of what the 50,000 square foot ordinance requires and why this is before you. The Fresh Market complies with most of I'm sorry, please excuse me. I have a terrible headache and I can't read.
Wonder why.
Complies with most of the conditional use review guidelines for the 50,000 square foot structures. There's one. There was one concern that we.
2 Tylenol.
Oh, thank you. There was one concern with the traffic, and perhaps the traffic engineer can clarify the concerns the staff has, and also a concern that was given to us by the Transportation Division, Mr. Javier Falcone, and that has to do with a 20% trip reduction to account for pedestrians and public transportation. It's
50 in favor things.
The Fresh Market complies with all the requirements of parking requirements of the city code. In fact, they have a few extra spaces that will be able to be used by general public. We did an internet search on the Fresh Market and shows that this was a company that was founded 25 years ago in North Carolina, and currently it has grown to 79 stores in 18 states with more than 7,000 employees. The Fresh Market is proposing to employ approximately 35 employees in order to provide the high-level service for which they're known. Although Public is 1 block away, we believe that the operations of the Fresh Market and Publix will be different as it focuses more on fresh produce and meats and prepared foods rather than general grocery items such as paper, like paper towels or things of that nature. They are proposing to operate 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sunday. According to their statements in the application, major deliveries will happen before opening time, and other daily deliveries will be using smaller semi-trailers and single-unit trucks will be throughout the day during the operation of the market. They comply with all the development regulations for the I-1, and that was the reason why it was continued from last month, because there was an error in the drawings where if that went forward, they would have required a variance. Right now, they're building a project as of right without any need for variance. Although the structure itself, it's slightly larger than those buildings that exist in the I-1. It's really actually it's a volumetric 1-story store with 2 levels of parking, which will accommodate their patrons and employees, and all the services that are internal except if you go as a walk-in, as you can see, you can walk in through that corner entrance that they're proposing and carry your groceries out. Otherwise, there are 2 internal elevators that will take the carts and the patron to the parking levels. Staff is in favor of this application and recommends approval, subject to the staff report as subject to the conditions in the staff report as enumerated within the report. There are a couple of corrections that I would like to make. Condition number 8, where it says bike lanes, it should read bike racks.
Are the bike racks at the street level?
Yes, they're right now they're being proposed on, I believe it's on 18th Street.
Mercy, this is condition
8?
third line. On
Condition
parking
number
spaces?
8 in the report, page 10.
Right, bike racks.
It should read bike racks instead of bike lanes.
Thank you.
The second correction, and this was brought to my attention by the chair when I met with him last week, is that usually the delivery trucks have a beeping sound when they're backing into the space. I remember when we were reviewing a prior application that had been proposed to this site, that was one of the issues in the neighborhood, and one of the conditions that was recommended is that instead of the beeping of the backing of the trucks, they use a flagman instead for security and protection of pedestrians and vehicular traffic. And there's an additional condition that is the lights on the parking levels. They should be diffused so that it doesn't spill out from the property. In other words, they should be be a downlight, sort of like, so that the light will not intrude into adjacent properties. That's the staff report, which is part of the public record. It was not read in full. However, if somebody wants it read in full, I'd be glad to.
I think we can all read. Thank you, Mercy.
Questions about the staff report, please?
Absolutely.
I need to have a better understanding of the footprint of the project taken out to its boundaries. So while visiting this site was not quite as much fun as going to the Gansevoort,
Why not?
because I don't go as late as the chairman goes. This is probably a pretty good corner late at night.
We'll go through that, Mr. Stoller, in our presentation, and that may answer your question.
Well, let me
Do
see
you
if I can just
have
run
a
through it,
board
because
that
I've...
shows the footprint of the
Yeah,
Do you guys
got
have a footprint board that you can just put up? Maybe we can just,
Okay, I've got a very simple way of asking, and I can find out in a couple of minutes. The Thomas Mayer building, which also has direct line, travel agency, and Facemaker spa lounge, all of that is gone, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then when you go along West Avenue on its west side, Touch of Class Paint and Body, is that gone?
That will, all the existing buildings on the side will be demolished. They go.
Is that one of them?
yes.
Okay, fine. The Enterprise car rental space, is that gone?
I don't know which one is
Immediately
the
north
Enterprise.
of Touch of
There
Class
are
Paint
four-
and Body?
Yes.
Yeah, four lots, starting on 18th Street, 4 lots going in, which is the grouping of buildings you described, a parking lot, and then a warehouse structure.
Okay, so where the development stops, that long building, as you go go south to north, beginning with Percent Management, Deco Models, South Beach Animal Hospital, all air-conditioned storage, does that all stay?
I don't know what businesses they are. I don't know if...
It's one long building immediately north of Enterprise Car Rental.
Yes, that would stay.
All that
Yes.
stays?
Yes.
Okay,
Let them present.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Let's take some control. Let's let these guys.
Henry, I think maybe a lot of the questions would be answered if we give them the opportunity to present to us. So why don't we do that first? We're sort of out of order anyway. So, Mr. Kasdan?
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Neeson Kasdan and Andrew Frey, representing the Fresh Market on this application, and our team here tonight, as well as Steve Showalter, Vice President of the Fresh Market, Tom Bowman from the Fresh Market, Mario Tour, who is the project architect and project manager, Adrian Debkowski from Kimley Horn Associates, who is our traffic consultant, and Matt Buchholz, also from Kimley Horn, is our landscaping consultant. To briefly, before we bring forward Mr. Showalter and Mr. Tour to present the project, I want to take care of a few housekeeping items. First of all, we filed yesterday revised disclosure affidavits, corporate and landlord affidavits, in response to requests of Mr. Stoller, which were appropriate for a clear presentation of the information, so you have those forms with you.
We don't.
We do,
You don't? If not, we'll...
I have them, yes.
but we don't.
No, you don't.
Okay,
All right.
Could we just
Would you
distribute them
them, please?
so that we can look at them while
Sure.
Mr. Kasdan's presenting?
Okay. We will distribute copies of them right now. As far as the traffic issues, as they are,
Thank you.
Mr. Falcone had certain questions. We prepared, and Kimley Horn presented to him on July 15th a supplemental report which answered and addressed all of those issues. And so we are going to we'll hand that out to you as well. But all those issues were addressed by Kimley Horn, and should not be any there should not be any question with regard to them at this point in time. With regard to the staff report, we are in concurrence with the staff report, with one exception, and that is we must have the 18-wheelers, although there are not many deliveries with 18-wheelers. In order to be able to service this market, we do need to have some deliveries with 18-wheelers, and which will be a lot less because most of the deliveries are smaller trucks. Mr. Showalter will explain that to you. Significantly, we have also handed out to you, which you have before you, are the endorsement letters of every homeowners association which surrounds this neighborhood, including Sunset Islands 3 and 4, Sunset Harbor South Tower, Sunset Harbor North Tower, Sunset Harbor Townhomes, and Belle Isle. I think it is fair to say that the neighborhood is enthusiastic about the prospect of a Fresh Market coming to the neighborhood, as I think most citizens in Miami Beach, myself included, are. This is a great thing to bring to our city. It also, of course, given the nature of the neighborhood that Sunset Harbor is evolving into, this will probably generate a significant amount of pedestrian traffic, which is consistent with our analysis as well for trips from the residents who live in Sunset Harbor, the Sunset Harbor complex, as well as Belle Isle, and perhaps even the Sunset Islands. So with respect to, and that really, with respect to the conditions, the one other condition which was added just now, which is that there be no beeping signal on the backing up of trucks, and that there be a flagman or someone to direct it. The only caveat that I would ask to add to that is if it is permitted under federal safety regulations. I do not believe that we are able to disable or order that the beeping mechanism on a truck be disabled. And so, if we can do it, we'll do it, but if we can't, we'll understand we can't. So with that, I'd like to at this time bring forward Mr. Showalter to talk briefly about the store that's being built and the operations of Fresh Market.
Showalter, please state your full name and address, please.
I'm Steve Showalter, and we're based in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm pleased to be here tonight. Mercy did a great job of telling you about the Fresh Market, so she kind of stole my thunder a little bit. And then we had a PowerPoint presentation prepared that we could take you through and show you some stores. And I see folks looking at their watches and the clock, and I'm going to forego that and just kind of wing this. That's okay with you guys?
That's fine. We all, I think, are very familiar with.
It's appreciated.
Yes.
I thought it would be. And if you have any specific questions that I'll leave out, just ask them, please. But as Mercy said, we're headquartered in Greensboro. We opened a new store a couple weeks ago, so we're up to 80 stores now in 18 states, few over 7,000 employees. And then just a little bit of a twist to what Mercy said in terms of the number of employees in the store. We actually employ about 100 people in each store, and then 35 at any point in time. So good employer. The hours that Mercy mentioned are right. We're normally 9 to 9 and then 10 to 8 on Sunday. We're real excited about the opportunity here in South Beach. We've met with homeowners associations, as Neeson said. Folks are looking forward to us being there, I believe. We've really got strong support and had a good exchange, good dialogue along the way of who we are and what we do, and just to make sure that people know what's going on, make sure they know we're not just trying to sneak in under the wire in the dark of night. So, again, we're feeling real good about that. Just a little about the fresh market and our operation. We're a full-service specialty grocer, so we think we're a little different than a normal grocery store. We're a European-style market. Most of our focus is on perishables, fruit, produce, meat and seafood. And because of that focus on fresh, we obviously have a number of deliveries throughout the week. We have deliveries every single day. And we have 18-wheelers that do deliveries for us. We limit those just as much as we can, but from our distribution center, we don't have a single truck that goes to each individual store. So a truck will stop at the store in Coconut Grove and then presumably move over here and do a delivery and then on to other stores in the Florida area. So it's hard to put an exact number on that because that changes throughout time as we add stores. Our largest trucks we use generally are 3 times a week. Those are 53-foot trailers, wheelbase 67 truck, which Kimley Horn has engineered into the traffic diagram that they'll go through.
Can't back that truck in.
So we have that 3 times a week, and then we also have deliveries of fresh produce nearly every day. Those are generally smaller trucks, sometimes box trucks, but also smaller 18-wheeler trucks. So if I were going to try to put an exact number on it, I'd say every day at least 1 delivery with an 18-wheeler, and then maybe 3 times a week we'd have 2 of those. And again, most of the time we try to get that out of the way before our customers arrive. So generally we're talking between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. in the morning. Occasionally we have traffic issues or a breakdown, and so a truck leaks in a little later, but we do our best to get that out of the way in the morning so that we don't harm traffic in the area as well as block access to our customers that want to get to the store. So the 18-wheelers are really important to us. Economically, it's probably not feasible for us if we didn't have the 18-wheeler access, because then we'd be forced to use specific trucks for this one store. And that probably doesn't work for us.
What's your closest store to this?
Coconut Grove. Coconut Grove.
Coconut Grove, right.
Now, Publix has 18-wheelers.
Pardon me?
Publix,
Publix has the right back to the front.
They don't back up.
they don't back up.
Nope. They go through an alley. They have a through alley behind Publix.
But we'll present to you the maneuverability analysis. It absolutely.
Right. I think that one of the reasons that the comment was put in there was when we talked to the city's transportation manager, he had concerns, particularly probably with the turning radius or the impact that it was having in the traffic pattern. So, I mean, I heard that Kimley Horn is here to address those
Yes.
questions. And just so that I guess for clarification for the board, you would have at least once a day an 18-wheeler delivery, and then 2 or 3 times a week there'd be a second truck that would come on site. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then in addition, we'd have smaller box
Right.
trucks.
Besides, but I'm talking
But all of
about
the deliveries would be shielded and backed into our service area.
But with
And
all of
to
the...
in your experience, do you know if you are able to, under the OSHA or other regulations, to disconnect that backup thing and use a flagman?
I don't know,
You
and
don't know?
I'm probably in the camp with Neeson on that. I doubt that we'll be able to do it, but if we can, we'll definitely provide the labor to hold the flag and disable it if we can.
I think Mr.
Can't
Kasdan's
imagine.
interpretation is correct, that that's a federal statute, and I don't think the city of Miami Beach can have much sway, Mr. Held, with the federal government. With respect to the deliveries, we might as well get right into this for just save time, because it is one of my biggest concerns about this otherwise magnificent project, in addition to my neighborhood, because I live there, as you know. West Avenue is a very tight street. It is very, very heavily trafficked. It has parking on both sides of the street. And when I first saw this last week, I was heartened by the staff acknowledging that it would be extremely, almost impossible to back an 18-wheeler into this space, with all deference to any traffic study to the contrary. The physical geography of the road, with parking on both sides, with the South Beach buses that come by, with Publix trucks, with FedEx delivery trucks, with the characteristics of our neighborhood, I just don't see how it's possible to back an 18-wheeler into this narrow, confined space unless the on-street parking situation is somehow mitigated to allow a wider area for the truck to maneuver. I think the backup noise thing that's a dead issue. I don't think we can make that happen. That is one of my concerns. The other would be how do you stage your deliveries because of the confined nature of West Avenue? If you have multiple trucks arriving, you only have, I think, one bay in here for deliveries. Staging the other vehicles on the street would be a significant problem in that neighborhood. Again, considering that there is limited parking and the street size is narrowly constrained. And you also have to deal with the presence of Tremont towing. Although that may in somebody's lifetime go away, it's there today. So there's a lot of activity on that street. And so I'll cut to the chase, and if you want to bring the traffic engineers up and we want to talk to these things, those are my major concerns with this project. And I would really like to get a sort of warm, fuzzy feeling that you've addressed those significantly.
Mr. Chair, if I may address that. We'll have Adrian go through it. Two points, though, before Adrian makes his presentation on that. Number one, the 18-wheelers, although they are infrequent, are essential to the operation of this business. Number two, given the nature of what Fresh Market sells, they can and do rely on significantly less and smaller vehicles, I should say, because it's fresh produce. They don't have the bulk items that you'd find in a Publix or a supermarket of that type. So they really do have a lower impact given the nature of the goods that they sell. And secondarily, and as I think you'll see when we go through the site plan, they have an interior loading dock, which is more than adequate to accommodate the small.
Well, I think all that's great. Yeah,
Adrian can take you through, though. They've studied this. There's no problem with actually having the 18-wheeler, and let Adrian take you through that analysis.
My name is Adrian Dubkowski with Kimley Horn & Associates, 5200 33rd Avenue in Fort Lauderdale. On June 23rd, we had prepared a maneuverability and access analysis on loading a WB67 into this particular loading area.
Do we have that?
Yeah, we're going to hand out the turning radius study to you right now so that you can follow along. And that was provided to Mr. Falcone when?
June 23rd.
June 23rd, so it's been...
You can start your...
In looking at this, we've actually had to redesign the site plan to get the truck to fit into the site. One of the improvements that we were looking at is having the truck bay north of the trash compactor. If you look in attachment A, you can actually see the turning radius diagram that we prepared in auto turn. And by moving the truck bay to the north, we're able to slide the truck into the parking space. Now, one aspect that we need to work on is the mountable curb. We need a mountable curb. If you see where the truck is entering into the garage area, without the mountable curb, this isn't going to be able to get the truck in there.
Well, those architecturally challenged up here, what is a mountable curb?
It's a sloped type curb your typical curb kind of just pops out. It's like what is it, like a 6-inch pop-up, and if you go over it with your car, it's going to be pretty painful for your car, but it's also painful for the truck. The mountable curb is kind of sloped back gradually.
Isn't that a driveway?
Excuse me?
To the layman up here, is that not a driveway?
It would be like a driveway. You would have.
Am I missing something here, George? I don't understand this. It's a driveway or it's a curb?
It's a curb on.
Drive over.
Yeah.
It's a curb that you would
That
drive.
part
on.
of the driveway. It's a speed bump. Go ahead.
It's a curb
Mountable curb.
that you would drive onto to get onto the sidewalk and back that truck in. If you look in attachment A, you can see where the truck, when it backs up, it kind of clips that corner there. And by having the mountable curb in place,
The south corner.
Or right here,
Yes.
if the chair and the board members.
That's yeah.
He's
I'm
pointing at
looking
that
at it.
area right there.
So you're saying that,
Back corner.
right, so you're saying that if I look at your pretty architectural diagram in the big book here, that you're modifying this curb to be this mountable curb, is that correct?
correct.
And George, what does that do to the aesthetics of this and the way this corner is going to look in practice? How is that going to actually play out? Because I'm having trouble visualizing what this is, because it's a driveway to me or it's not.
I would hate to be that last car that's parked there.
Yeah, exactly.
No, again, basically, you have a wider apron look to it because it comes down to grade at that corner. You have the sidewalk and the curb and gutter just tapering down to street pavement elevation.
Yes.
But what's important there is you can see that the turning movement of the vehicle basically takes up both drive lanes, and so
You would need a flagman to execute that safely.
So you're going to have someone out there actually stopping traffic while
This is one time per...
once
day.
a day and
Yes.
2 or 3 times a week there'll be 2 deliveries.
How long do you think it takes to put the truck in there?
Anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes.
So you're talking about once or twice, perhaps, 2 to 4
Once a day and 2 or 3 times a week.
And it would be early in the morning. We actually looked at the traffic volumes from 7 to 9 on West Avenue. And if you look from 7 to 8, you would essentially hold up per minute 1.67 vehicles. So if it took 4 minutes, you'd be holding up approximately 8 vehicles for that full length of time. If you look from 8 to 9, the amount of vehicles per minute that you would hold up is 3 vehicles. So times 4 minutes, you're going to hold up 12 vehicles,
6 to 12.
both directions.
Right.
And what were those times? I'm sorry. Yeah.
I had traffic data that the city provided me with from 7 to 9 in the morning.
And
I believe Steve had presented that deliveries would be any time from 5 in the morning until 9, which, according to this, your 8 o'clock is going to be kind of the peak hour in the morning of that time period. So you would hold up approximately 12 vehicles in both directions, the north and southbound.
Most of the commuter traffic in
case.
that neighborhood goes out over Purdy Avenue.
Would go down Purdy.
Go down Purdy.
We've looked at all the different roadway links, and this one was a lot less impacted by the actual traffic flow. You look at Purdy, and I believe Purdy is anywhere from 2.5 to 3 times more traffic that is on West Avenue.
I would agree with that.
And I don't know if Neeson knows the answer. Is the majority of the time the deliveries are before 8 o'clock, or is 8 o'clock the peak?
I'd have to ask Steve.
Yeah, the peak is probably a little before that, actually,
Mm-hmm.
for the big truck.
Right.
And then the smaller trucks,
Right. Those are able to
They're throughout
pull
the
right in. What happens?
But
I
back
guess
to
at
my
7
question
at 7 o'clock in
about-
the morning. What is the? There's I imagine a reduction in the number of cars that are being held up by the turning movement, right?
Yes, it ends up you're holding up 1.67 vehicles per minute at that time. When you go to the 8 o'clock hour, you're going to hold up 3.1 vehicles per minute.
Per minute.
So
And if we were to,
the overall trip rate ranges from 90 vehicles from 7 to 9, or I'm sorry, 7 to 8, and then you're going up to approximately 180 from 8 to 9.
Okay.
from 8 to 9?
Yes.
180?
Yes.
Right. When
That's where you're getting
potentially
from.
one of these tractor trailers could be pulling into the building because you've You've already gotten your first one, and now your second one has arrived at 10 o'clock in the morning. And meantime, the bread truck is sitting there in the loading bay, and now there's a tractor-trailer in the middle of the street, and where does it go?
Now, most of our stores, I don't want to whitewash that, this is an issue, but most of our stores do only have one loading dock, so we're used to scheduling trucks so that we don't have that conflict. In fact, the loading in this store as proposed is better than a lot of our stores because we're moving into second-generation space sometimes. So we consider this situation pretty good. So, we'd schedule trucks, so we try to avoid that conflict.
Okay. Does it make your life easier if these vehicles that are parked on the east side of West Avenue are not there?
Absolutely.
I'm talking to the traffic engineer. I'd like his expert opinion on this.
On the east side of West Avenue?
Correct. You see the little
it'll
cars?
be-
If
it'll be
those
easier.
cars were not there, if we told the city of Miami Beach as a condition of this, and I don't know whether we can,
You mean the
to
west
eliminate
side?
parking.
The west side of West?
No, he's talking
The east side of
East
West
side.
Avenue.
backing this in, so
Okay.
you don't need. I think if you ran that, you could actually eliminate the mountable curb. I think you may be able to squeeze it in there.
And you probably just need to.
I think that's a whole Pandora's box.
Yeah, I don't think
just
the
these
gain
bottom two.
is much.
And I don't know that, I mean, we can explore if it makes sense, but we can't guarantee that we'll be able to remove those on-street parking spaces, so.
We think without it, it just gets easier if you.
Right. I mean, does it significantly improve was it 2 to 4 minutes?
It won't
That-
impact
it
that
doesn't-
at all.
Because the real problem is that if it takes 2 to 4 minutes, there's 12 or 16 cars that are blocked while that happens.
Right.
Removing the parking spaces on site doesn't seem.
It could actually create a hazard where people
Are trying to
could
squeeze
try
back.
to get.
So it doesn't, removing the parking spaces doesn't reduce the amount of time that it takes to maneuver
No.
the vehicle in there,
But-
and
but
that's what's holding up the
The
traffic.
other thing is, I'm guessing we haven't done a parking utilization study, but my guess is the people who are going to park in these spaces are generally going to be the people that are going to be here, and if the store's not open, those spaces are probably going to be empty at
Well,
8 o'clock in the
there's-
morning anyway.
No.
I
those
wouldn't say that. I think
spaces
if you
are
look at that neighborhood,
used.
there's severely underserved in terms of parking.
But at 7 in the morning?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of service.
But to Jonathan's point, you're going to have, that's a 2-hour parking meter maximum? So I don't think you're going to have too many people showing up.
Again, I think all we're really talking about is.
I was just
I
asking
wanna
if it
mention-
makes his
right.
life easier,
Just
that's all.
Removing the spaces doesn't seem to improve the situation.
Okay.
It may even create a little
Mr.
conflict
Chair, what
if
I would,
people are trying to
what I would
buy
suggest
the truck.
is
so.
the Fresh Market people have laid out that they have a plan, including the mountable curve, plus their delivery is scheduling. If this, after it's open, if it needs to be revisited, we can always come back and deal with it. But I think they've come up with what our traffic consultants and Fresh Market believes is both the best plan in terms of traffic issues and also that allow their store to operate. So,
Well,
as a conditional use, you always retain the ability to revisit the issue.
yeah, my concern with this is, in all deference to my neighbors, who are all hot to trot and excited and want you to open tomorrow, and then after it opens and they're stuck on the street and they're listening to backup noise and there are delivery trucks, they're going to come knocking on my door and they're going to say, well, why did you approve this project in the first place? Because it just doesn't fit. And I think it's a beautiful project, but I really do have significant concerns with this issue and with some of the other traffic issues that were sort of glossed over in the traffic analysis that was presented to us originally. This is one of my biggest concerns because I live in that neighborhood. I live there. I watch what happens to on-street parking with delivery trucks. If you have ever come into our neighborhood in the middle of the afternoon, on the 1st or the 31st of any month, there are moving vans double parked in the middle of Sunset Harbor Drive. There are buses, there are FedEx trucks, there are Publix trucks coming and going. There are tow trucks flying around the neighborhood everywhere. And traffic and this specific issue is a big concern. Now, I do understand your predicament. When I saw this originally last week, and I was told, oh, we're going to prohibit 18-wheeler trucks, I said, yeah, fat chance you could make a supermarket work without 18-wheeler trucks. It's just not a viable business. So now you're presenting this to me, and I'm not getting a warm, fuzzy feeling that this thing is going to work in these tight turning radiuses, given the reality of the traffic in that area. And I would ask my fellow board members that if we approve this today, that we make sure that we have conditions in the conditional use permit that allow us to revisit this if we find that this is just not working.
Well, you want to limit the amount of 18-wheelers and say come back a certain amount of times? Is that what you're thinking? Or just keep general, as Neeson said, just keep general, review,
I think
powers?
you can say if loading issues become a problem in the future, that we reserve the right to open it up and address those issues.
Because probably Gary will say that we need to put
But
some sort of
but to their
factual
credit-
basis for us to have it come back to us.
To their credit, you're not talking about
Like
double
you get X
parking
amount of
vehicles.
complaints, there's traffic, there got to be some
What did you say,
rational criteria
To their credit,
probably.
what?
Exactly.
You're
Henry?
not talking about double parked vehicles. Like
Not yet.
Like
Not
Frank's-
yet. Not yet.
The-
Henry?
The chairman has struck a very good note here, and the tone of what he's saying, the substance of what he's saying, is that you are a fabulous company, and you operate wonderful stores. And I know your store on Bayshore Drive in Coconut Grove. I don't know your Aventura store, but I'm sure it's equally spectacular and welcome. The problem I think the city faces when an extremely welcome project like this comes along is to make sure that, Frank put it very, very well, that once we have this extremely welcome project, that it continues to work. So continuing on Frank's note of talking about vehicular traffic consequences, a couple of comments not dealing with 18-wheelers. I think that's been covered. Your traffic study shows a 600% increase in PM peak hour trips. And I wonder if that has been adequately addressed. And secondly, on the same subject, the staff report lists 5 unresolved or unsatisfactory items from the transportation manager. And I don't think we've been given anything that deals with those. And I guess those two overlap. I guess the transportation manager is responding to the 600% increase in PM peak hours.
But Neeson, didn't you say you had
Yes,
something
in
up?
fact, all of the issues that were raised were responded to in a written report to Mr. Falcone that was delivered on July 15th,
Yes.
I think it was. So they've all been dealt with. We have distributed to you now that same report, and we're happy to have Mr. Dabkowski take you through that.
No.
Neeson,
We don't have that report.
No, I don't think we do.
We don't have that report.
It was submitted on, it's in your folder. I believe it's tab.
They don't have this one.
We don't have it. If you addressed his concerns, it's not in anything that we have up here today.
Yes, we sent it to him on July 15th.
I don't doubt that you sent it. I'm just saying we don't have it.
I'm more than happy to redistribute it. We have 12 copies of it.
Whoa, this is what we're talking about, right?
Right, didn't you?
Traffic impact?
No, this is the original.
This is the original.
That's the original.
This is dated May, Jonathan.
This is the original. We do not have a supplemental report.
Here. We'll distribute those which have the original and the supplemental.
Frank,
Neeson?
Jonathan?
Is there parking?
I apologize. It's my son's birthday, and I have to leave.
Okay.
But I wanted to say 3 things before I left. Okay? First of all, unfortunately, I won't be here to vote on this, but I look at the project, and I think it's a tremendous asset to the neighborhood, and I hope that we're able to work something out before the end of this meeting. Unfortunately, I won't be here. The 2 issues that I hope will be addressed are small issues. I think it's critically important that this store have some kind of generator backup, that we've learned that being able to provide food after hurricanes is an obligation that we need to really be sensitive to. And I don't know if it's addressed or not, but I think that if we were going to build a Publix today, we'd require them to have a generator, and I think that it's important that generator backup is required on this store because the neighborhood will rely on this store after a hurricane. And number 2, I think that this neighborhood and the way this city is going, in addition to being sensitive to cars, you should make a better effort to address bicycle parking.
And then-
Because I think that people are going to really want to come to your store on bicycles and scooters, the like. I think, so those are my 3 comments, and I apologize for not being here to further up my conversation.
Relative to Mr. Fried's comment, his second comment,
Thanks, John.
when we get into looking at these conditions item by item, I think you should specify the number of bicycle racks. This is a very hot issue locally, and I think it should be in the conditions that you're going to have bicycle racks for 18 or 180 bicycles.
Sure. We don't have any difficulty with that at all.
And similarly, since it's related to sidewalk space, your number of tables and chairs outside, because that's expressed pretty vaguely too.
You got any problem with a generator too?
Gary?
Generator backup? John?
In fact, we have an initiative underway right now evaluating putting generators in coastal properties.
Okay, so that's a good one.
Thanks, Jonathan.
That's right in line with what we want to do anyway.
Excellent. Frank, can I ask you, or maybe George, and just throw this out? I live nearby, so I'm fairly familiar with the area. I'm there every weekend. And at nightfall, I take my 19-month-old daughter to that park. There's a lot of children in that park. School buses, I'm sure, that are there in the morning. Last couple of years, I'm 8 in the morning on a Sunday or a Saturday. I'm in that park. There's other kids there. That's around the time we're talking about some deliveries. I didn't see anything in the report or in the applicant's report to address. Maybe there are no issues. But there is a park with a lot of kids, less than 2 blocks away. And is there any concerns that we should have, and how should they be addressed, if anything?
If I understand, if I think I understand where you're going with this, it's vis-a-vis how are these vehicles entering and leaving the neighborhood?
That, including buses. Some buses for
Right.
children come around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning too, and
So for routing of the vehicles in and out of the neighborhood is, I think, the question that Gary is getting to in the time of day. How are these vehicles come and go?
Page 9 has a trip distribution for the PM peak period.
Of what you just handed us, or the original?
Yes, no, of what I handed out. And this is the revised distribution. There was, I believe, 2 or 3 comments by Mr. Falcone regarding the distribution, which we have reworked to help more accurately portray the anticipated travel patterns with his input. And based upon that input, we're loading 65% of the traffic south on West Avenue to 18th Street. 40% will continue south to Dade, where 30% will make the left turn, the southbound left turn onto Dade Boulevard, and the 10% will exit out Dade and proceed westbound.
What about the trucks?
The trucks will come through West Avenue from the north, so they will arrive southbound.
How do they get to West Avenue?
They will have to either proceed southbound on Alton and take the slip ramp on 20th Street and then come down 20th to West Avenue.
most public trucks do now, George.
Right.
They, well, they go through that alley, but I think they come
Do
come
from
in.
Alton,
No,
165?
they come
most of them
from-
come from Alton Road and they
Right,
come
and
down
then-
20th Street and they go
up
down to Bay Road and then
And
they
then
turn
across.
the alley.
Yeah, and
And then they go
across.
out through West Avenue, back
So
out.
basically, then we're adding, because I live on Alton and 23rd, we're adding
Oh, no, go
trucks
on a microphone.
filing down Alton Road also now in the morning.
You need to be on the microphone.
Yes.
Do you have a
Well, but sometimes, what happens if the truck is coming from the south?
on a map would actually, do you have?
Map.
A larger
I have a-
aerial of the area, of the neighborhood?
Just to walk us through how the truck gets from Alton into the space.
Well, you can sort of do it on that map, but not really.
2,000-foot house.
Yeah.
Well, coming down West Avenue, they proceed southbound on West Avenue. I don't know, this is kind of zoomed in just on the site specific. I think you're asking me more globally.
Get us from Alton to west.
Yeah. Your trucks are obviously coming southbound on Alton Road.
Yes.
Okay.
Coming southbound on Alton Road, and then when you get to 20th, there's a right turn, channelized right turn lane that you would
Correct.
take.
Right.
You would take that channelized right turn lane,
on 20th, and then you'd come down to West Avenue. You'd make the left turn, the truck would, proceed southbound on West Avenue, which would bring you here. The truck would continue southbound to this point. At this point, you would need the flagger out to stop traffic from backing into the ramp area. The truck would back up into the space, get into the garage, and then they would close the doors for the garage, unload the truck, do whatever they needed to do.
Communication work from the truck to a flagger so that the truck's not sitting, idling, waiting to get into space.
Steve, is there a driver and a co-driver that they would have for the operations, or?
Generally, there'd just be a driver, and then the helper would be an employee from the store.
So it's conceivable, to Randy's point, that this truck could arrive and sit there in the middle of the street for some period of time while someone in the store notices that it's there. Because as I look at your rendering here, there's really no way, when all that vegetation is nicely grown in, that anyone's going to see the truck when it's on the street. So to Randy's point, how does the driver communicate to the store to get the guy out there? Because what you introduced today, which was new to me, is that this whole backup scheme doesn't work unless there's a person sitting in the street.
You can require the driver
Right.
to call ahead as a procedure.
Well,
And we do that in a couple of other stores where we have screened areas, and they need a store employee to open the gate so that they can back in.
Right.
I'm sorry, you said that the truck is coming from Alton Road north and making a right on 21st?
No, he'd be coming southbound
Coming south.
on
Alton.
Alton, and then he'd make a right on 20th.
On 20th. Is that
Yes.
where the laundry is?
Yes.
Yes.
On 20th.
Yes, where Mark's Dry Cleaners is.
Will he
Well, it's
be
also
able
where
to...
the Tom Munich University is,
That's,
and they
it's a
constantly
triangle medium in there. Will he be able to turn right?
It's not it's a channelized right turn lane. It's like a slip ramp type lane, so it's not a hard turn that he would have to make.
Well, the Publix trucks already make that.
Oh, that's right, yes, yes, yes.
Publix
George, you
trucks
said
already
that's
make
where Publix takes that route too?
Yeah.
Publix?
Right, they take the same route. Henry?
I'm sure this book is full of great scholarship and brilliant engineering. It was just handed to us. As members of a lay board, I think what would be vastly more useful to us is to take the transportation manager's 5 bullet points on page 3 of the staff report and respond to those in maybe a 2 or 3 page letter. And perhaps where I'm going with that, and let me just float this, Mr. Chairman, given the importance of the project, the desirability of the project, but the kinds of questions that are being raised and the difficulty of digesting this, coupled with the fact that we haven't heard from the public on this yet, they have not completed their presentation, and I have a suspicion that the Montessori school is in the room and they don't quite have the resources of these folks, that maybe we should continue this to next month and do it with the lot split all at the same time. Because they all have to come back anyway for the lot split.
I think we're here. I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah.
I can walk you through the pages that we've changed based
Frank,
upon
you don't enable
the
this,
transportation
anybody else?
manager's
I like
comments.
also.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair.
I am not comfortable with the fact that I was given this 5 minutes ago, and one of my principal concerns that I raised to staff last week was traffic. And the traffic engineering report from the city found this deficient. I have not had time to study this, so if you want to proceed with this, I will not be happy with it.
Mr. Chair, if I may. This traffic study report is the full traffic study report. Incorporated in this are the items that were raised by Mr. Falcone. Those items, typically you don't get the full traffic report. We're just providing it to you. You're not expected to digest full traffic reports. The 5 items that were raised, I would request that we have, it actually is quite straightforward and quite simple. And I would request that we have a few minutes to have Mr. Debkowski take you through each of the 5 items and explain them to you.
Go ahead, start.
Okay, we can begin with item number 5 regarding the pedestrian reduction.
I'm sorry, are you going to take the page 3, the top of the staff report, these 5 bullet points, That's what I'm asking about.
It's also on page 6, it's repeated as well. But if you go to the staff report.
Yeah, it's on 3 and 6, Henry, in the...
Okay, well, we can go on page 3.
Right.
Right.
So can we just go in the order of what we have in
Yes.
front of us? That would be most helpful.
This begins with trip distribution and assignment.
Yes. Comment 1 and comment 2 are very related with the distribution. Previously, Mr. Javier did not feel that we were loading enough traffic onto West Avenue and we were loading too much over towards Purdy. And so what we had done is we looked at that distribution, took his comments into consideration, and reworked the way how we're loading the traffic. So we're taking the traffic that we were loading to Purdy.
That's on page
9
of what we handed out.
The big book?
Yes.
Yes. So we're taking, before we were loading a lot more traffic on Purdy Avenue, and now we're taking that traffic and loading it directly onto West Avenue.
And what's the response to the first bullet point, which says the 10% assigned in Figure 2, project traffic distribution, should be adjusted to reflect actual conditions?
When we come up with the distribution, we look at a cardinal distribution provided by the county, then we sit down with the city and we walk them through that. We went ahead and did that, and there is some leeway where, when you look at that, you can say, well, yeah, that looks good, but then when you get the traffic study, you can say, well, I think you need to take 5% of the traffic here and reload it here, because if you look at the existing volumes are more reflective of that, and that's what we went through and did with those 2 particular comments.
So you're saying that no adjustment, you're just disagreeing, no adjustment is required?
No, I'm saying that we did the adjustment. We adjusted even more traffic, because when you think about it, you've got West Avenue that ties right into Dade Boulevard. It's a straight connection. More people are going to use that, and that's where we're
Mr.
loading
Chair.
the 40% of the traffic that way.
Gary?
If I may, at the moment.
Yes.
So the transportation manager made 5 comments.
Correct.
And supposedly the traffic engineer for the applicant has responded to them. For him to explain to us the response is really not the answer. The answer is, has the transportation manager reviewed the response, and what is his reaction to it? And if we don't have that information tonight.
Perhaps you do. Did you get a response from Mr. Falcone on your revised analysis?
I didn't get anything back, so I was assuming that was, we're fine with it. Essentially, we just followed what he laid out in his comments, and we did what he told us.
There are also, though, no conditions or recommendations related to the traffic analysis.
Except we said no 18-wheelers. So
other than
and
18-wheelers.
that's why now all this has come to come up.
But like number 4 suggests the roadway link analysis will be used to better assess the impacts of the proposed site on the adjacent transportation system. It sounds like
I want to cut to the chase, because this, aside from the truck deliveries, this whole traffic distribution model that you came up with concerns me greatly, because I'm not sure, and I'm not a traffic engineer, I just live there. I'm not sure where you come up with your projections as to the way people drive. I can tell you that the nature of people in this town is that and Mr. Kasdan will know this better than I, people in this town that drive will do anything possible, including floating their car across the Collins Canal, to avoid the Dade Boulevard Alton Road intersection. It is the worst intersection in the city of Miami Beach. It is a disaster. So your analysis that indicates that you're going to shift 40% of the traffic from this store down that street, I don't believe for a second. I believe what is really going to happen is what happens to public traffic today that wants to go in those directions. It will come down Purdy Avenue to the Dade Boulevard intersection, and it will stack up there the way it does today. So to Gary's point, I would really like to see the city's traffic engineers' response to what you're presenting here, because I'm not a traffic engineer, but I do live there and I watch the way people drive, and I think expecting us Beach residents to drive down that date. That's probably one of the most underutilized intersections in the city of Miami Beach. And if it was such a great intersection, people who use Publix today would use it. They don't. Because if you're going to go south, you're going to go to Dade Boulevard at Purdy, you're going to turn left at that light and go south on West Avenue. It happens today. No one does what you suggest. No one, because we all know that intersection's a disaster.
But then, Mr. Chair, if I may ask, because, and the actual number of increased trips is not that much, although the percentage for certain of the West Avenue may seem high, the actual number is not. Being as familiar as you are with the neighborhood, what alternative would there be?
No, I just want to see that the numbers accurately reflect the reality of the neighborhood.
But then
my alternative, as you well know, is to build this gangplank across the Collins Canal, but that may not happen in any of our lifetime. That would be the ideal solution, but we don't, as a board, have the authority to make that happen.
What I'm suggesting is that, and the reason why perhaps there's no condition relating to these items is, other than...
No condition in the staff recommendation. That's not to say that this board might not put one in there.
I understand. But the fact of the matter is, what is the alternative, is the question. I mean, you are going to generate some amount of traffic. These are the projections based on their professional analysis. It may turn out, in reality, to be a little bit different, but...
I can come up with one alternative. I already came up with one for the trucks, and everybody shot me down because it's, you know, the almighty god of the beach called parking. But, you know, when it comes to getting people around this town, sometimes we have to sacrifice parking. I could easily see, if the traffic studies indicated that more traffic was coming down Purdy Avenue to the Dade Boulevard intersection, that some of the parking that exists today along Maurice Gibb Park should be eliminated so there's a dedicated right turn lane there. If you implement that, then people who use this store that live on Belle Isle and live on the Venetian Isles will have a way of getting out without stacking up as they do today. So that is something that could be explored. But without the analysis of the city traffic engineer, with what you presented here, we don't have all the facts. We don't have all the information I need to make an intelligent decision.
We had previously loaded a lot more traffic onto Purdy, but it was based on the city's comment that we had removed that traffic and loaded onto West Avenue. Our original traffic...
Well, he's new.
I'm not sure we made it clear, but we took those 5 points, the suggestions from the traffic manager, and took those in entirety and simply adopted them. We didn't push back, we didn't change them, we didn't alter them,
But
we just adopted them.
As the city attorney has pointed out, we don't have anything back from the transportation manager, and that's what we need, and he's right.
Well, I would suggest, if we are making a statement for the record, that they have been, his recommendations and the analysis have been adopted in toto. If you know, there's no reason why you could not proceed on this, and if he says something different, we'll come right back to you. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, these are professional traffic consultants. They responded, and they responded by providing the information that he requested.
Neeson, no one questions your representation, but we need to hear from him, and we need to hear from him in writing.
Mr. Chairman, I don't agree. Not on that point. I mean, I have other issues with regard to this traffic study, but, I mean, if Mr. Kazan's going to proffer this conversation and it's part of public record, it's not an issue. And I'm sure Mr. Held can...
I don't agree with that, but, you know, you can at some point put it to a vote if you want to discuss the other issues that you have so that they have this in case it's continued.
Right, or you could set aside this one issue and that we could report back to you if indeed the traffic manager had
bifurcate it.
You know, I mean, I can tell you that right now, reading my learned colleague at the other end of the table and this will not fly.
You don't have 5 votes.
You don't have 5 votes. I will not vote in favor of this evening without the benefit of the city's traffic engineering studies telling me that this actually it works. Well, and I have other issues like you do.
Mr. Chair, let's get whatever issues anybody has, let's get them out on the table. But secondarily, and I do have to caution everybody that, I mean, if this market is going to be looked to make some global neighborhood traffic changes, like removing meters on Purdy Avenue, which will then affect the businesses and other property owners there, we're talking about something that will prevent this market from happening. We can deal with what we can deal with. We can deal with our property, our immediate neighborhood, we can establish procedures, but as soon as we start changing what's happening in other parts of that neighborhood, there are other parties affected, and we'll never reach a conclusion.
I don't think anybody's suggesting that.
Could we,
That suggestion was removing
we
meters
can
on
do
Purdy
that.
Avenue.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Richard
George.
has offered to go sit momentarily with the traffic consultant and try to see if he right, and then maybe you could explain to him, and then Richard can report back whether or not, in his opinion, the concerns that were raised by Mr. Falcone have been addressed in the response, since unfortunately we don't have Mr.
No. I'm not going to be voting for this based on third-hand hearsay, no matter how reputable everybody involved is.
Why would that be third-hand?
We need the transportation manager. He's the one who wrote the report. For his bullet points.
But
Just wrote the 5 bullet points.
If they have addressed the concerns adequately, I can report to you that they have addressed the
And
concerns.
then we
There's
have
a
an
problem
opportunity
that he is not here to speak.
at next month's meeting, there's a related hearing. If we come back and tell you, we have serious issues, we've now spoken with the transportation manager, and there's a serious issue, we can have a motion for a rehearing or open a reconsideration and address whatever concerns. So you have the benefit of giving them direction and some form of approval now, and holding back the transportation component, because you're going to have another hearing next month anyway.
I don't think we should approve this piecemeal. We have a huge piece of this left on the lot split.
Yeah, and
we have a very thick report just handed to us.
Your August meeting.
I'm sorry?
August is becoming now an unmanageable.
I understand that. I know what the August agenda is already. But
I don't know that the city commission is, I don't know that anyone's voting to approve anything tonight, but let's start, it's already been said that 2 of the 5 are not interested in approving anything tonight. But let's get some of these issues out of the way. If Mr. Lorber's willing to go sit for 5 minutes, let us finish the rest of our conversation while we're here. That's all we're trying to do.
That's where we're going next.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's go there. Okay, I want to do
So
that.
Henry, and then
All right,
we'll use our usual pattern of walking down the board.
Okay. Mr. Kasdan?
Yes.
You've made a wonderful suggestion. Everybody should give you their list tonight so that we can act on this next time. I've already talked about the bike racks. I hope there'll be a proposal for a number of bike racks. Secondly, the staff report, page 5, item 6, found some deficiencies in the security plan. Third, I've already asked for numbers on outdoor tables and chairs. Fourth, again...
Henry, Mercy can't write as fast as you can talk.
I'm sorry.
Go back to 3.
You're slowing them down.
Okay, bike racks, the number of bike racks. Next, the staff report found some deficiency in the security plan.
Can we, what deficiency?
Page 5, item 6. A complete plan has not been provided.
Well, I mean...
Well, that's what the staff has said. That's all we have.
There's no condition relating to it, but...
I think we ought to get the whole story. I think that the staff should be able to say a complete plan has been provided. This is a big facility. Security is a big deal. Page 7, paragraph 9, staff has said there is no indication of how often trash will be removed. Between now and next month, we got to be advised of that. And page 10, condition 6, I'm not sure, this is a staff point. I don't know why we're speaking here of developer designee or contract operator. It should just say Fresh Market, just like the next paragraph, 7. Fresh Market shall be responsible for cleaning and maintaining. Paragraph 6 should say Fresh Market shall be responsible for taking care of the parking lot. It would be good to know, Neeson, just as a matter of general information, are all of the leases either being bought out or is there an option to terminate them? Because there are a whole bunch of people here, within the footprint of the proposed structure.
Well, obviously, it can't proceed unless they have occupancy of the property. So that was the landlord's responsibility. Whatever the landlord did, he did. And so we now have a lease, and we will have possession in order to proceed with this. There is also a condition here, condition 2, that the planning staff added, which says the conditional use approval is for the Fresh Market as a long-term leaseholder. Any change or lessee or operator shall be required to appear before the board to affirm their understanding of the conditions. So that really has been covered globally by the staff's recommendation.
Neeson, you got the comments on the lot split. Well, you said you got the comments. They were all on one piece of paper or 2.5 pieces of paper. You submitted an application, an amended application tonight on the conditional use permit.
Just the affidavits.
Okay, I guess we'll get an amended application if you wish to submit one in response to the comments I submitted on the lot split.
Yes, we're going to change. It's been done.
Okay, we don't have that, but I assume
that's not before you.
Right, it will come around in the packet.
Yeah, of course.
For next month's meeting. And you had not yet arrived at this meeting, but I think your principals were here. There's a separate requirement under the existing lot split ordinance that all the conveyances or all the deeds, all the restrictions, all the covenants be furnished.
You wanted an opinion of title.
There is an opinion of title requirement.
And the opinion of title would cover all of that.
Thank you very much.
Randy?
Okay, I'm going to run through a couple of quick items. With regard to the parking, I am going to assume a lot of the employees take public transportation, but I'd want to make sure that there's designated spots for the employees as well. Cart racks, how are carts going to be maintained? Are you going to have stop devices? Are you going to have racks so that they don't end up in the neighborhoods?
And in all of our stores, we don't really allow carts to leave the stores.
Great.
So we're full service, and if somebody needs help, we carry their groceries.
Terrific.
Steve, can you, near and dear to my heart, you struck another nerve. Carts, okay? Right, carts. You say the carts are not allowed to leave your store. How do you physically prevent that from happening?
In our existing stores, we don't have locking mechanisms.
Okay.
It hasn't been a problem. I know during the discussions with the neighborhood associations that Publix has used the locking mechanism.
Doesn't work.
We'd look in and be open to any suggestion there. We just haven't, we haven't.
As I see your footprint, there's only one means of egress logically that a person can get a cart out of the store, and I believe that's the handicap ramp on 18th Street. Is that correct? I mean, other than carrying the cart down the stairs. How else would a shopper get a shopping cart out of your store?
Through the car ramp.
Well, you'd have to ride it down the car ramp, but I don't even think they do that at Publix.
I also drop my car cars, like I did on Saturday. They have a lock. They can unlock the mechanism. Somebody follow. They roll it down. It wants the extra couple of bucks, and just roll into the car wash, and they bring it back.
If you think about our other store models, though, too.
No, a lot of people bring their carts to both the north and south condominium towers, and they end up in and around our property, and once a day or twice a day, Publix comes back and collects about 50 shopping carts from both buildings.
Oh, yeah, we need some sort of law.
Okay, so it's a very real problem. I raised it to staff last week. I don't know why Mercy didn't bring that up, but it is a very real problem. We currently today have shopping carts from Publix, Office Depot, Walgreens, you name it. They're all around the neighborhood, and I would, since you only have that one logical place, it would seem that you could have some way of preventing people from taking a cart out, but that is your handicap ramp, so the devil would be in the architectural details on that.
Does the
Fresh Market customers don't do this.
Really?
A high-end niche.
You mean like the Epicure customer that puts their cart in the back of our Marina Walk? They don't do that either?
On the subject of shopping carts, Mr. Showalter, were you saying that what I call the canine electric fence mechanism doesn't work?
No, I didn't say that. I said
I did.
we've never utilized that.
Oh.
In our stores, we just haven't had a problem. We've And typical shoppers, if they shop at other grocery stores, they're used to taking a cart outside. But when they attempt to do that in our store, the clerk at the checkout counter simply tells them, we don't allow the carts to go out, we'll be glad to carry groceries out to your car for you. And that hasn't been a problem for us.
Excellent. That's great news.
That's great. Thank you, Randy.
I think that's great. I think it's in somewhere in the approval, there's going to need to be some strong language so that if it becomes an issue, that there's a quick remedy.
Sure, absolutely. Again, if you look at the outside of our
Yeah, no, of course.
Did you get that?
Right.
You're going to want language in.
Right. I just don't know how many of your stores are in true residential
Randy made a point.
communities.
We probably only have one other store
Right.
that's as urban as this.
Right. This is, again, I think this is such an urban setting that there may be the potential for an issue, and I just want to make sure our approval includes language that if there's enough complaints.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Randy, what was that? I was talking to Mercy about their shopping cart thing. What point were you making? Just now?
That in our approval, we ought to have language that's strong enough that if there's complaints about carts being in the neighborhood, that we have a remedy in place so that we don't. Sorry, Mercy?
He's just trying to capture your comments for a future condition. So
blah blah.
If
blah,
it basically,
blah.
if it's the if the cart, if staff becomes aware of complaints about carts being abandoned in the neighborhood, it shall be brought
suggest
back.
a remedy in place today, so that, or at approval, so that we don't have the issue that we're having with the Gansport, where there is no remedy. Let's write out a remedy that everyone can agree upon today. And I think you're biting your tongue or your lip, because there is a remedy, and the remedy is closing them down. I don't want to close, but
no 18-wheelers. No.
I don't think closing I don't want to close your store down because you have carts out there. So
We haven't even opened it up yet.
let's come up with a good remedy. With regard to trash, I'd like to, when it's appropriate, I think the time of the trash, if the compactor has noise, that should be considered as well.
Let me say this, Randy, that it is the trash disposal is entirely indoors.
Great. So
I think that deals with your issue.
Perfect. And my last comment, and probably the toughest to pass on and to digest, and again, I'm going to use as a frame of reference the Gansport. This, to me, if it gets approved with the 18-wheeler, is going to be an issue. You will be back here again. You've got cars that are parked on both sides of the street. When someone leaves their car not properly parked all the way across where it should be, and it's sticking out 3 feet, and it's 7:30 in the morning, and you can't find the owner of that vehicle, I do have concerns that it's going to become more of an issue. And as much as I appreciate Kimley Horn's statistical approach to it, I think that's on the lower end of reasonability. I think you're going to have, if you do get approval on it, I think you're going to be back here again because there's going to be complaints and there's going to be accidents, and I don't know that you have a better option. I know money always solves all real estate problems, and I know you don't want to go to a smaller truck. Because it's just
They can't.
Can't do it.
That's not how they deliver their goods.
And I understand that. I'm concerned with the way cars would be parking on both sides of the street, and I think it needs to be thought about a little bit more, not maybe from your perspective, but from the Kimley Horn folks. It may be the only alternative, but I think it needs to be tweaked a little bit. And again, not to quote the Gansport folks, but when we talk, they keep talking about tweaking. Let's try to tweak now instead of later. Yes?
Sort of just to address that point, one of the questions that I had asked when we were talking about this, the deliveries, was that probably they were going to happen in the earlier part of the day. And is it possible that we could schedule this to be prior to 7 a.m., that the deliveries to this facility occur before 7 a.m.? I don't know how that works logistically, but that certainly seemed to have a very minimal impact when compared to 8 p.m.
Well, you know, it's a catch-22. You have the backup thing that people are going to complain about, that they hear that at 6:30 in the morning, but on the other hand, there's no traffic on the street, so to Randy's point, it's probably a better time to back that truck in. So it's the nature of an urban environment. I mean, it's what we live
And there's, you know, I mean, there's other trucks that are making that noise as well. There's, you know, the garbage, regular garbage trucks, and there may be other delivery vehicles in the neighborhood. So that's a noise that's known and expected.
The noise thing really doesn't concern me as much as just the truck.
To minimize the impact that it has on the traffic, perhaps the 7 a.m. might be...
Yeah, we'd do that if that was possible, but I'm really concerned that that's a little bit too early to commit to. I mean, we can stand here and say we'll do it, but again, we'll be back here.
Right.
You know, you'll slap us on the wrist for not doing it because it's just too early to commit to.
Okay.
We're not going to have a rooftop lounge, though.
Shucks. And I was going to go there at 1 a.m.
Those are my substantive comments.
Thanks,
And I
Randy.
would just share with you, I think you need to go back. You got to sharpen the pencil on that. It's going to be a headache for you. Try to mitigate your headache a little bit now because it's going to be a headache later.
Okay, appreciate those comments.
Gary?
Okay.
Jonathan and I do agree. I think I'd like to see
when he's not
something.
here?
I'd like to see something with a generator.
Not here, it's easy.
Well, that's what I could say. No, the generator backup is a key thing. Yeah, I think that needs to be required, that the community will rely on that. And following up on what Randy said, what I said earlier, I don't want any adverse, we want to try and avoid adverse impact on a neighborhood park that's populated by a lot of young children, you know, baby age. So, and I also don't want to lose that parking there to employees saying, "I will just go park over there and throw some quarters in." So I want to make sure that there is parking for employees on site.
Was that ever raised were your employees not parking in the parking structure themselves?
Some spots, but we don't have 35 designated spots in the parking garage for employees.
What happens if 25 people come to work in cars?
They don't.
That's probably not going to
Okay, what happens if 20 come to work in cars?
Street parking.
There is no street parking.
Park.
There is no street parking. You cannot park in the park. George, that doesn't fly, George. That doesn't fly.
We don't want to lose.
You know that doesn't fly in our neighborhood.
The parking requirement for the supermarket contemplates
employees.
all their, and the employees are kind of wrapped up in there. But more importantly, you also have some excess parking, as I recall.
Yes.
I don't remember that the number is not very large. Not very many.
But there can be no doubt that this store needs to contain its employees.
Right, and the parking requirement.
So there should be a specific prohibition against employee parking, you know, at least in the gift.
No, I think what I heard.
There are at least 10 excess spaces.
Right, but I think one of the important things that I thought kind of made sense, a comment that I heard one of the board members mention, was that perhaps if you had the designated parking for employees, it was labeled as such, then we know that they're not out there hunting for spaces on street. We know that the spaces are set aside for your employees, and we can talk about what that number might be, an appropriate number. And that way, we know that it's taken care of. By the way, the parking requirement for a supermarket is significantly higher than, for example, a retail store. It's one space for every 250 square feet, I think, as opposed to one per 300. And it does wrap up into it. The employees are part of that parking requirement.
But your store is going to be very popular and be a great success, and I can tell you that Publix runs out of parking. And then we have people who are fighting for the limited spaces on the streets.
Mr. Chair,
here's an alternative.
That kind of brings up to mind some of the discussions we've been having with the Commission and Planning Board regarding moving forward with our growth management initiatives. And we're actually discussing all these various transportation demand management type options. I'm sure, Neeson, you're familiar with the TDM kind of thing that we see nowadays. So I would ask, have you considered perhaps transit discount bus passes or even free transit passes for employees, or staggered work